would like to see. But I'm so glad that you could be here, Russ. I'm so happy that y'all can be on here today, because I really think that if you just hang out with Russ, even just a little bit, your life is better. He really is one of those people who makes it better. So thank y'all so much for being here. And thank you, Russ, so much for being here. We're going to have a few minutes where we get kind of chat as the group, because we have our own vibe, and then we'll get a little more formal where we put it live. So welcome, Russ.
Well, what a kind introduction. Thank you very much, Suzanne, for all those niceties. I appreciate it. I don't get that kind of acknowledgement every day, so it was really
she doesn't talk like that every day.
Yeah.
So, thank you.
Awesome.
Yeah. Well, does anybody anybody have any thoughts they want to share this morning? I know it's Freeform Friday. Does anybody kind of want to?
I think we're ready.
We're ready. Okay. All right. Let me get one sip of coffee. Let me spit out my gum so I don't look like, a Texan. Yeah. Y'all. Okay, where's my notepad? There it is. Okay. All right, so give me just a second to do all the fun technical stuff. And if you'll watch the chat, or Paul, if you want to watch the chat, however we want to do this. Okay. Okay, and it's going to take me just... Yeah. Okay, let's see here. It's not giving me that as an option.
Because I haven't made you host yet.
Oh, okay, yeah. I got to be the hostess with the mostest. Oh, Tom, I like that picture.
Make me co-host.
That's cool. Okay.
So I can watch.
Thanks. AI. I love it.
Yep. Loving it.
Mine's not AI. I don't know why you got to use AI. Mine's
right. I know it's terrible. Yeah, all those the P51s that you're behind, and
no. Right now, the one here.
He's on the Joe Rogan show on that one.
That's the Joey.
The Joey McKinnon show. Sorry.
That's awesome. I need one of those.
Okay, make you co-host?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm making you co-host.
All right.
Welcome, Deronda. I know you might not be able to go on camera. Welcome. Okay, so
Sir Jeffrey's on too.
Sir Jeffrey with his crest.
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna live stream. I think it's gonna go on an AEO Mom Boss.
Okay.
Okay.
As long as you know where it's going.
Yes, I know where it's going. Okay.
It's going right.
My hair is like all over the place.
There.
That's okay.
There.
Go live. Okay. Preparing to go live. All right, almost there, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for your patience.
Okay. Respond to the chat.
All right. Okay. To go live. All right. Almost there, ladies and gentlemen. Mute myself there. Come over here. Okay, we're live. All right. Welcome, everyone, to the Alchemy Workshop Mastermind. Today we have an amazing guest, and our guest today is Russ DeVan. And whenever I met Russ, I actually met him through another amazing member of the mastermind, Paul. And and Paul, I could tell even just by the way he was talking about Russ, I was like, okay, Paul doesn't usually talk about people like this. This guy sounds pretty interesting. And then he's like, you got to meet this guy. So we were working on a project together. And I start talking to him, and the first thing I noticed about Russ is how authentic he is, in that he's actually listening to you. He's not just waiting to talk and waiting for his turn to just jump in there. He truly is interacting with you and figuring out, he's literally processing, how can I help this person? What can I share? How can I serve this person? You can tell he's feeling that. And it made sense, because then later on, I learned a little bit more about his background. And Russ's background, he's obviously very well recognized as a notable speaker, but he was like on stage with people like with people like Jim Rohn and with Bob Proctor. And so I know this community is very familiar with those names and that vibe of people. So that tells you a lot about him right there. And he's also written books. He's an incredible businessman. He's got a ton of business acumen, marketing, networking background. It's he's a collection of all these really great qualities that I feel we need in the world. And he still has kept his heart and his compassion this whole time. He's been going through that process. And as us being entrepreneurs in here and business owners and personal growth, we know that sometimes that beat down of that journey kind of like does a number on you. And you don't always feel like the kindest person in the world. So to see somebody who's had, who you know their journey has been kind of tough like that and still maintain that compassion and listens to people and still wants to serve, I think that's an incredible thing. So we invited him on here today to just share some of his experience, wealth of knowledge. And I just wanted to welcome Russ DeVan to the Alchemy Workshop. And thank you everyone for being here as well and joining us. So yay, Russ! All right, so he's joining us from the Pacific Coast. So I think you're in Arizona. So
yeah, it's close enough. The big earthquake, it'll be the Pacific Coast.
The coast of Arizona, yeah. Right. Well, so Russ, welcome. I guess we kind of want to get started with
all the secrets.
Yeah, just tell us the secret of life. If you could just jump in there and help us out with that. So let's just start in the beginning. Like, what gets you going in the morning, man? Like, where are your thoughts in the morning? Because we start this in the morning. This is how we get our vibe going, so that we carry that frequency high all throughout the day and the week. Where do you start from?
I start from an old expression. I don't know how old it is, but an expression that a coach of mine once used. It said, "All there is to do today is all there is to do." So where I really start is, well, let me put it like this. You've said a lot of really wonderful things, and the bottom line with me is I feel that I have a gift, and my gift is actually having the ability to see other people's gift and show it to them, and then have them get it out in the world. My core value is contribution. And when I was doing, I'm sure many of you or all of you have done some kind of life purpose work, but when I was doing that some 35, 40 years ago, what I discovered was that my core value and my life's purpose was to contribute love. And as 60s as that might sound, it really is the core of everything for me. I love people. I love them. And I when I interact with them, when I listen to them, what shows up for me is their gift, like their specialness. And don't misunderstand, people can be a real pain in the tuchus too. Okay. So, I mean, it's actually a blessing to learn how to listen. It wasn't always like that with me. I was the person listening for their turn to talk, listening for approval, listening for those different things. And really, when I got to see that about myself, I saw how it was in the way of me making a difference, which is even more important to me than maybe anything else. So to answer your question more specifically, Suzanne, when I start the day, I generally have a to-do list, like that I wrote the night before, of things that I want to accomplish during the day that fit in an overall picture of the month, that fit in an overall picture of the year, that I call the project. And the project has sub projects. So I'm out to do something each day, even if it's a small thing, a single daily action that moves me closer to the objective for the month, which moves me closer to the objective for the year. That's kind of maybe a mundane way of saying that I have an agenda. You know, every day I have an agenda that I've formed or created the night before. And I got hooked on that a long time ago when I wanted to move my life forward, and I took a year-long course that was called Leadership, Productivity, and Service. And in order to graduate from that course, you had to complete a goal. Well, it took me almost 90 days to figure out what the goal was. I mean, really just learning about setting my life up that way. But the interesting thing about it is the goal was about money, not because money is everything, but because it was measurable. It was a measurable form of progress. And the year before, I struggled a little bit. I've been an entrepreneur for a long time. I've owned a watch company, a lot of different things over the years. But the year before, by my own means, I'd made about $40,000 just doing stuff on my own. For years, I had to do something else just so I could do stuff on my own. I mean, I had to have a job in order to do stuff on my own, as funny as that sounds. But I made about $40,000. But when I had a project, and I actually had, and don't misunderstand, I don't have 12 months laid out. You lay it out 1 month at a time, and then that month has objectives, and it has measurable things like milestones and single daily actions. But when I adopted that strategy for going at life, oh, it has rewards too, rewards, and it's an interesting system. But my income went from $40,000 in a year to 185,000. As a matter of fact, I paid twice as much in taxes as I'd grossed in income the year before. And I knew I was onto something. And out of that came my company, which I call Success by Design. And I teach something called untraining, which these are all kind of made up. You know, everything's made up for me. And that's what I've been doing for the last 40 years. And it's kind of what I do every day. Now, every day has its own innuendos. Like there's this piece that's personal today, and there's this piece that's more business today, that's survival kind of oriented. Then there's the lofty goals. You know, you mentioned that I've written some books. I've probably written more in books, like I've contributed to books, but I've been working on 4 books of my own now for probably going on, I don't know, 10 years. But those books will be completed within the next year because they've been written essentially. They just need to be collated and organized and published and those things. But for instance, that's what I call a background project. I'm always working towards that. But then there's also an overall project. And the overall project is my legacy. I've had I've had really my mortality put in my face quite a bit in the last 2 years, as many of us do when we get you know up in the 60s and the 70s and things. And some time ago, I felt like I've been guided. I mean, I feel like I'm being guided right now. So part of it is my doing, and part of it is something a lot bigger than I am. But I decided that before I leave the earth, I want to create something that I'm remembered by. So I decided to build an $84 million foundation, and that number has a specific significance. But the foundation, which will give to causes like veterans, first responders, abused women and children, childhood disease, disaster relief. These are things that it seems there's never enough money for. And if I create an $84 million fund, the interest on that properly handled would produce at least 13 to 15 million a year in discretionary contributions to these areas. And that's what I want to be known for. But I think the part that really empowers me is it's not about public donations. As a matter of fact, I don't know if we'll even accept them. The foundation comes about as a promise. When I work with people, like if I worked with you, And we have an unwritten agreement. The agreement is that if I assist you in making $1 million and you attribute that $1 million to actually our working together in our relationship, I don't want any of it. I don't, and we might have some pay arrangement along the way, but I mean, I don't want any of your million. On the second million that you make, I ask that you donate 1/12 of it, which is $84,000, to the foundation. And 1,000 people doing that creates an $84 million foundation that's done out of generosity and people paying it forward. And so that's what I'm building. That's what I do every day when I get up. Some piece of what I do that day is towards creating the foundation. And I want to do that before I croak, before I'm not here anymore, so that something's left behind of me in the world. That's what I do every day when I wake up.
That's perfect, Russ. That was beautiful. Thank you. So we could go so many directions with that, but I was trying to have these questions like kind of like where I guide it, and then you start answering, and I'm like, oh, we should go here instead. So I'll try to stay a little bit on target, but I would like to know, how did you come into, because you've been on stages with, like I said, Jim Rohn and Bob Proctor, so you're in that vibe of people. How did you come about that being what you did that for a while there, that part of your life?
I was invited a long time ago when I had some semblance of success. And I would say really like 1991, 92 were breakthrough years for me, where I was authoring articles and people were asking me to co-write books and contribute and things like that. And I was picked to be part of an elite panel, would be a good way to describe it, of accomplished people. And these live seminars called Masters Seminars were held. And they were sponsored by a magazine which doesn't exist anymore called Upline. And these master seminars would invite and people would pay, and we didn't, sometimes we got an honorarium, but generally we just donated our time for a weekend to be with about 300 or 400 people. And it was through that I met people that invited me or introduced me to these other people. Like I was asked to speak most of the time with people like Les Brown or Jim Rohn. And by the way, I hate name droppers. So those people, I don't want to give you the wrong impression. Jim Rohn and I weren't besties or anything, but I had the blessing of spending 2.5 hours with him backstage before we both spoke. And those were 2.5 of the best hours I've ever had, just being with someone like that and having them show any interest in me at all. And it was the same with Bob and Les and some of these others, and they are great names. And what I got out of it was that was a gift, and my takeaway from it was that gift isn't about me saying, well, I was near these people or we were friends or look at me because I know somebody famous. It was more like, okay, that gift is something that I was given. Now, what am I going to do with it? Brag about it, that I spent time with Jim Rohn, or take what I learned in those 2 hours. And some relationships went on for a long time after that. There's a man named Bill Gove, Gove. And one of the things, I met Bill when he was speaking in a weekend seminar, which was more like a workshop. But he's the one who taught Jim Rohn how to speak, not how to speak physically, but how to public speak. Bill Gove was his teacher. And Bill and I became instant friends, I think largely because as we were getting to know each other, I found he was born on the same day in the same year as my father, October 15th, 1911. and that created this bond. And I feel like God's placed people, and there are many people I know that aren't famous like those people, but they're a bigger blessing just the same. And it all came about through something you've already mentioned, Suzanne, and that's really listening. Like people say, how did you meet this person? How do you know this person? It's like a level of awareness, really. I mean, we walk by greatness every day, and we're not there. We don't even see it. Like the famous people that I've met in an airport. I had a situation one time when I was flying back from a training on a Sunday, and it was during the spring, like this time of year, and spring break in college was going on. And I was trying to get back to Arizona from Florida, where I'd done a weekend seminar. And I kept getting bumped on the flight in Dallas. The connection was in Dallas to go back to Phoenix, and I kept getting bumped. And remember when they used to say, okay, if you take a bump, we're looking for volunteers to give up their seat. We'll give you $200 and two free round trip. Remember that when airlines today? Maybe they still do it, but
No, they don't.
Okay. Well, yeah, so I was there. I called home, honey. I'm getting bumped, and they're saying, my wife was like, stay, get as many as you can, keep getting bumped. It's okay. We'll use them. I don't care if you ever get home, you know. So I was staying in the airport, and on my third attempt to get another set of tickets and $200, I sat next to somebody, and we were both waiting to get on the plane to see if we would be bumped. This was the third time for me, first time for him. And I look over at him, and it happens to be a famous football player and an NFL quarterback. And I was right next to him, and I looked at him and I said, "Are you?" And he said, "Yep." And I said, "Wow." And I said, "Why are you going to Scottsdale?" He said, "I'm in a big golf tournament, a celebrity golf tournament." And what came out of that is me noticing him, being interested in him. We both I never ask famous people for their autographs. Just something a long time ago. I just decided not to ever do. If I ever had the privilege of meeting someone that, I just wouldn't do that. It would cheapen the experience. And that's just me. But anyway, we got on the plane, and I had this thought. I had a 9-year-old nephew who just adored the team that this guy was going to be quarterback for. And I said, should I ask him for his autograph? But I didn't. And then when we got on the plane, I was thinking about that. And I thought, I need to see it. So I got up on the plane to go back and see him. He was actually sitting behind me a couple rows. And he was sleeping. So I didn't bother him then. I go, okay, well, that's a zero. To make a long story short, when we were deboarding, I had a limousine service at the time. And I asked him if he'd like a ride, if he had a ride. And he said, well, they're having me rent a car, but I'm really not very excited about it. And I said, well, why don't you let me take you to your hotel? Well, we didn't go to his hotel. He wanted to come by my house, and he came by my house, and we spent the afternoon together. And then he invited my wife and I out for dinner the next night. To make a long story short, I wound up being in this guy's wedding 45 days later. And he's a friendship and a relationship I have to this day. But it just came from paying attention to who you're sitting next to. That was it. And so the key here, and I'm not sure how I got off on this boring jag for you, but is when I listen and I pay attention, it's amazing what's around us and what's right in front of us. And we just don't see it. We just don't hear it because we're busy with other thoughts or busy with other things. So it might have taken me 72 years, but every day I think something incredible is going to happen today. And you look, I get stressed too. There's times where you think, oh, well, God, it would be nice to have a stress-free life. I guess it would be. I don't know what it's like to have a stress-free life. I have stresses and I have things that I worry about, but here's where I am on it. When there are things that I really can't do anything about, I think, well, there that is. Well, there that is. And somehow Always land on our feet. We always land on our feet. It's like nothing is ever what we really make it out to be. And if you let it go, things have a way of unfolding. I'm not saying you shouldn't be committed or you shouldn't look for solutions or any of that. I'm saying that if we just got out of our own way and paid attention and listened and focused more on how we're being instead of what we have to do, it's just an easy way to live. And that's been more present in my life the last 2 years because of congestive heart failure and a stroke and all that. And those things didn't really come from stress. They came from not paying attention. And so if you don't pay attention, you'll be forced to. That's kind of like me, even though I know how important it is and how committed I am to it, it happens to everybody. So anyway, that's how I get up every morning, Suzanne. And this morning I was excited to come to this because I didn't even know I'd be the special guest. I just thought that I wanted to come meet you and be here with you and meet new people. And I'm crazy about Paul and Suzanne. They're both incredible contributions in my life, and they just occurred. I didn't look for them. They showed up. So what I tell people is if you put yourself in the right space, solutions, people show up, but we have to create the space for it. I've often said, you don't find love, it finds you. And that's always been the case for me. When you're in a place, when you're looking for love, you can't find it, or you make bad choices. But when love finds you, it's like, how about that? So, Suzanne, I don't know if that's what you want. I'm rambling now, so I'll.
No, you're doing great, Russ. High five.
Throwing out gold.
Yeah, you are, man. It's awesome. So I had some questions, but we've also got questions coming into the chat now. So wow, this is great, Russ. Thank you. So I'm going to ask you two questions, and then we're going to get to I want to hear a little bit about success by design, because even that word, just success by design, that's not an accident, even though you say, oh, I just made it up and untraining. But I definitely want to get there. Right before we do that, we have a question from Randy. What is the greatest advice to culture that awareness, to cultivate that awareness? Is that right, Randy? Is that kind of what you mean? Yeah. Okay.
So my response to that would be probably the most valuable thing that I learned many years ago. And now I kind of losing track of time these days, but it has to be however long ago 1991 was. I was in a year-long course called Leadership, Productivity, and Service. I think I already mentioned that. But one of the distinctions I learned in that course was listening. And I actually believe, this sounds funny, that listening can change the world. But listening is, well, generated listening is an art form. Everybody listens. Even the hearing impaired listen. So it's not really listening. And I don't teach listening because you already know how, and people already know how to listen. But the way they listen is the important thing. So there's this automatic, reactive type listening that we're born with. And by the way, all this might not be true, so it's just a philosophy. But we're born with a certain kind of listening that we're not aware of, that it's all the time. It's like our skin. How often do you think about your skin unless you're looking in the mirror at a blemish? I mean, you don't walk around going, oh, my skin. We don't think about that. We don't think about listening either. We just listen. But automatic listening actually gets in the way of us hearing things. Because automatic listening is like, will you get to the point? Hurry up. Tell me something I don't know. I don't agree with that. I agree with that. Those are all types of automatic reactive listening. There's another kind of listening. The other kind of listening is generated listening. And generated listening is listening to somebody for what's there, like you're a blank piece of paper that they're writing on. It's listening to people, but hearing what they don't say. Like, hearing their concerns or their commitments, which I believe are the two things that drive all human beings, our concerns and our commitments, but actually having a normal conversation. But in that conversation, you hear what they're committed to. If they're talking about their family, their commitments are everywhere. If they're talking about their life is full of complaints. But what does our culture teach us about complainers? Oh, it's negative. Get away from me. You bring me down and that awful energy. Ooh, ooh, ooh. But actually, what if complaints were a gift? Because underneath the complaint is a concern. And they aren't heard. Our concerns aren't heard. They're shunned. So what if you were the person that could hear people's concerns and have them feel heard? Now you've got a connection that's unlike mostly any of their other relationships. So that's basically, to answer your question, there's one thing that we can learn about, and you'll never, at least I haven't, not in 35 years. I don't believe the idea is to get mastery of it. It's not like I generate listening all the time and I'm some kind of an elevated being. It's not like that. It's more like it's something you practice. You practice it. And when you say, yeah, but how do you get rid of your automatic? You don't. But you notice it. The moment you notice you're automatically listening, your automatic reactive listening, you're present. That's it. It's like noticing you're not there puts you there. I know that sounds abstract, but it's really the truth. So the one thing that I offer people right out of the gate is listen and the distinctions around listening. I think listening could change the world. I think this, if you look at the chaotic state of the world and how many people aren't heard and how many people can't be with that point of view, whatever it is, they said, no, I'm right. No, it's this way. No, this is the good way. No, this is the bad way. This is the this is the that. Instead of just listening. If you believe in natural law, is there resistance floating around in the universe all by itself? No. Resistance can only exist in the presence of a force. So if you remove force, resistance disappears. And we do that with our listening. We actually create resistance. And when you're listening, there's no resistance to listening. There's no resistance to a choice. So anyway, I can't even remember what the question was now, but that's what I do.
You did great, Russ. You just be you, man. We're loving it. Yeah, this is great. So, well, let's kind of segue into because this is great. You're talking about listening and cultivating it. So, how does that tie into what you created with Success by Design? Because you used a key word there, and I'd like for you to kind of explain this part. Maybe is the untraining, because I think a lot of our brains go like, oh, untraining, get rid of the programming, get rid of the so what do you, the code, right? What do you call it, Russ? How would you?
Let's start with Success by Design, because since I named my company Success by Design in 1991, Success by Design has popped up all over the place, and I couldn't even trademark it then. But there's Success by Design weight loss centers. There's Success by Design architecture firms. There's all kinds of Success by Design. But really, it comes to the world of direct sales. I think I'm the only one. But I can't even be sure of that. But why that name? That name was chosen because I wanted to have an identity to fall back on when somebody says, "What do you do?" And my response to that, "What do you do?" was, I own a company called Success by Design. And they go, "Oh, that's interesting. What does that mean?" Well, that name came about from me noticing that when you talk to people about success, most people have some idea of what success means to them, and it's all different for lots of different people. But the one thing is, they don't really want to be responsible for it. I think that's one of the reasons why most people don't find success is, number one, they don't define what it means to them. And what it means when you define it is, if you're going to have it, you need to be responsible for it. That means you need to produce results. You need to You need to show some kind of end game or direction for what you're creating or producing. So out of that name came the idea or the thinking, you talk about egocentric, that I could probably, or I might be able to shift how people felt about network marketing, which clearly didn't work and maybe still doesn't to a great extent. But it's like, it has this awful image, and yet it's just a system of distribution. When you look at it closely, it's not Amway, it's not what your mother did, it's not this, it's not that, it's not even what it's spoken to be. It's a system of distribution, that's all it is. But the emotionality that's around network marketing as a system of distribution is amazing, really. And that system of distribution produces 300 billion in sales worldwide. So it's working for somebody, right? So go back 35 years and I'm thinking, okay, how do I do that? How do I help shift the look or how network marketing is done? And what research do I have to show it can work? And when I went there and I was going through this personal development experiential program at the same time, I thought, well, first I got to figure out what doesn't work about it. Because my framework for working on a problem is what works, what doesn't work, what's missing. That's it. So if it works, you don't need to fix it, right? But if it doesn't work, then maybe something's missing. So what about it didn't work? And clearly all these things started showing up, but the real culprit was how it was being taught. This is all my opinion. And when I looked at how it was being taught, one of the things I saw is it was rife with false beliefs, not just network marketing either. Sales as a model, direct sales as a model was rife with trainings, and there's nothing wrong with how it had been trained. Sales methodology is great. You know, this isn't about being against something. It's creating a new possibility for how something can work. And when I saw things as simple as, let me give you an example, the warm and cold market. I mean, the warm and cold market is pervasive in all kinds of selling and marketing and sales, isn't it? And we have this thought that the warm market good, people you know, friends, neighbors, relatives, whatever, and make a names list or whatever. And then you've got the cold market. I mean, just look at the contrast there. You got the cold market, which is strangers, people you don't know. Oh my God, you mean like door to door? Ooh. And when I looked at that, I thought, well, wait a minute. Is it true that your warm market is easier to talk to or more likely to do something? No, not in my experience. It isn't. Well, okay, I guess that leaves the cold market. So the cold market is strangers. So the question is, well, how do you talk to strangers? So that's where scripts and lead systems and all that comes from. How do you talk to strangers? We don't need to know how to talk to strangers. We talk to strangers all the time. Now, talking to strangers with a hidden agenda, that's a different deal. So I thought, well, wait a minute. Maybe this model is wrong and has been wrong for decades. What if whether you know somebody or don't know them isn't what makes them a prospect? Revelation. Well, how about that? Maybe what makes them a prospect is a conversation. And as a culture, we've forgotten how to have conversations without an agenda. Okay, so it's like, well, wait a minute. We're not teaching people how to conversation. We're teaching them what to say. That's different. What to say occurs out of what you hear. That's a conversation. So and I tell people, when you see someone in a store and they're a friend of yours, you recognize them. You don't think, there's Bill. Oh my God, what do I say? What do I say? There he is. He's right over there. I haven't seen him in a long time. What do I do? What do I say? What do I say? Do you know what I should say to Bill? We don't do that. We just go up and start a conversation, right? But if we have an agenda, if we just joined a new network marketing company and we want to talk to Bill because he'd be really good at this about these products, and without him thinking that we're in a pyramid, now everything's dicked up, right? So that's just one example of how Success by Design came about. And I coined and trademarked the word untraining because I think we don't even know how trained we are. We don't even see it anymore. Over years of programming and courses and personal development, did you ever wonder why people go to personal development programs for 40 years? Like, at what point do they get developed? And how about Think and Grow Rich? I've heard people say, I've read Think and Grow Rich 36 times. It's dog-eared and it's highlighted, and was 37 the charm? Or when are you going to practice some of it? I mean, very few people even know that Napoleon Hill was broke after he wrote Think and Grow Rich. It was W. Clement Stone that started the Napoleon Hill Foundation and had Napoleon get paid for his work. I mean, when he wasn't being paid by Carnegie to write it, afterwards he was broke. But it just tells me that we don't practice half of what we know. And if we just started being ourselves, and we just started connecting with people and listening and having conversations, that's the key. So I've actually built a life and a training out of that thinking, which isn't mine originally. Everything in Success by Design was created from something somebody else gave me. So I can take some credit for it, but really it's not me. It's a composite of all the gifts that I've been given just by looking, searching, and wondering how I can contribute, how I can make a difference, how I can shift the way people think. I tell people when I'm speaking to an audience generally that my job is always to challenge the way you think about something, not to make you wrong. I mean, I'm not sure that what you're thinking is wrong, but I like to challenge things and say, well, are you open to a different interpretation? Are you open to another possibility? Especially if there's resistance. Somebody's like, wait a minute. Okay. Well, it's this way. Okay. I'm not going to argue that, but are you open to a different interpretation? Are you open to another possibility? So anyway, that's how Success by Design and untraining came about, Suzanne, if that is sufficient.
Yeah, above and beyond. So this is great. Randy says, knowing is not the action to achieve, it's just knowing with or without action. I think you're making a big impact on all of us. This is huge. And I keep hearing, and I think y'all probably are picking up on the same thing. He's very much, you have a heart of service. You truly do. And it's very apparent as you talk. Your wisdom is, I mean, thank you. Thank you so much for being here and sharing it. I want to ask you real quick, and then we will probably end the live, and then we'll go into our private mastermind so that people can ask some questions if they want. But I want to ask you real quick. So if you could go back to Russ, who is in his 20s, and I know it's kind of a cheesy question, but is there anything you would tell Russ that you would, any pieces of advice that you would give Russ then?
Gosh. It would be what I've already said, but it would be pay attention. It'd be pay attention. Get outside of yourself and pay attention and listen. And people are wonderful. Even the bad ones are wonderful in a way, in that they're interesting. But I believe that relationships, and this is like a lot of lip service is given to this, but I believe relationships, that means family, friends, business connections, they're the most valuable thing really in life. They're the biggest gift that we're not aware of. And I know you're aware of your family, and we're aware of our family, and we know it's important to love people. But like at this point in my life, I live with kind of a wonder, like the chance that you have to be with people and learn from them. Like today, you've given me a gift just by being interested in what I have to say. I mean, like how often do I get that? And here it's a gift that's given to me, And I didn't ask for it. I wasn't vying for Suzanne's attention. I didn't say, do you have any groups you can invite me to come speak with? But it occurred. And now today, I start this weekend fulfilled because I have a connection to all of you now. I don't know where that connection will go, but I didn't have it 45 minutes ago. It's something that just has occurred because it's a gift, and life is just full of gifts every day. And for me, that's the wonder. And I think maybe, I have this thought, I have to share it. I think, is this what it's like just before the end? I think that all the time now. So is this wisdom coming to me because I'm going to die in my sleep tonight? I mean, I have dark thoughts like that, but I don't think so. And it doesn't really matter, does it? It's just like I'm aware of it. And it used to be when I was in my 20s, everything you see your whole life in front of you, which of course isn't necessarily true. I think about the friends I lost when I was in my 20s. But I guess that kid, if I could get a hold of him, I'd say, look, okay, you have a healthy amount of ego, Russ. Just get outside of it for a few minutes every day and pay attention to what's around you. Pay attention to others. Pay attention to all the gifts that you've been given and all the appreciation there is to have, and you'll be happy. And isn't that really it, you guys? Aren't we really looking for that piece right there? Don't we just want to be happy? I mean, I think it's interesting that this country's founded on life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. It's not a coincidence.
That's wonderful, Russ. Yeah, I know. And yes, Duranda, you're right. Yeah, gifts equal moments of joy. She says, thank you, Russ, for the moments of joy you've spread this morning. I'm listening and receiving. Oh, that's awesome. Okay, before we end the live and then go into our private room, and y'all can just stay on here. You don't have to push anything.
And I'm writing a book of poetry, which isn't the least part of the book will be my poetry, but it's beautiful poetry. And I have this concern that it's being lost these days because of technology, because of our educational system. The beauty of the written word. I bet you could stop 100 Harvard students and 90 of them wouldn't know who Robert Frost was, maybe a higher number. But anyway, this poem is called The Fool's Prayer. And you have to think in terms of Old England or Old English because it's set in medieval times. But it's a poem, as many of the poems that I love are kind of about humility. And that's really the message of this poem. So it's called The Fool's Prayer, and it goes like this. The feast was done. The king thought some new sport to banish care. And to his jester cried, Sir Fool, kneel now and make for us a prayer. The jester doffed his cap and bells and stood the mocking court before. They couldn't see the bitter frown beneath the painted grin he wore. He bowed his head and bent his knee upon the monarch's silken stool. His pleading voice arose, O Lord, be merciful to me, a fool. No pity, Lord, could change the heart from red with wrong to white as wool. The rod must heal the sin. But Lord, be merciful to me, a fool. 'Tis not by guilt the onward sweep of truth and right, O Lord, we stay. 'Tis by our follies that so long we hold the earth from heaven away. These clumsy feet, stuck in the mire, go crushing blossoms without end. These hard, well-meaning hands we thrust among the heartstrings of a friend. The bitter truth we might have kept, who knows how sharp it pierced and stung? The word we had not sense to say, who knows how grandly it had rung? Our faults no tenderness should ask, the chastening stripes must cleanse them all. But for our blunders, oh, in shame before the eyes of heaven we fall. Earth bears no balsam for mistakes. Men crown the knave and scourge the tool that did his will, but thou, O Lord, be merciful to me, a fool. The room was still. The king arose and sought his gardens cool, and walked apart and murmured low, be merciful to me, a fool. How's that, Paul? Thank you.
Oh my God. That's, yeah. Okay, I'm gonna end the live there. Thank y'all so much who
Thank you, Russ.
joined the live. If
Welcome.
everyone wants to just hang on, I'm gonna pop us over to let's see, end the live stream.
To unlive. You're gonna unlive us?
I'm gonna unlive this.
My.
Yes. Okay, I think it is. Let me just double check, y'all. Yeah, okay. We are no longer live on YouTube. If anyone wants to unmute. Wow, first of all, Russ, thank you. That poem that you just like rattled off, I'm like, holy cow, is entranced. Yeah, Joey loves to write poetry, and so you were really speaking to him, and I'm sure that really spoke to many of us on here. We have a couple of minutes left, so I want to open it up to everyone. We're not live, so you can be as free as you want. And if anyone wants to ask Russ,
say what we really think.
Say what we really think, right? you can say cuss words if you need to. So if anyone wants to unmute or raise your hand or ask Russ a question, you feel free to right now.
I agree with Randy on building an audio video of his voice reading poetry. I think that would be awesome. Soothing.
Recording in progress.
Okay, yeah. Please build an audio video with your voice and avatar. Oh, yes, yeah. Oh, we got all the tools to do that.
Oh, you could do it.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. Russ is I mean, y'all can see he's just he needs to be shared with everyone. But you just need to bottle Russ up and share him with everyone. So does anybody have anything in particular that they want to ask? It's
Joey have his hand up. Joey, were you raising your hand?
I want to know, you recite poetry. Do you write poetry too?
I do. And I'm not very good, but
that's never been a requirement.
This book that I'm writing is going to include my favorite poetry from people like Sill and Poe and Frost and some of the classics, and quotes and speeches, and it'll also include some of mine. And I think the best thing I've ever written was called "You Don't Know My Heart," and that's going to be the title of the book. You Don't Know My Heart. And there'll have a subtitle, and it'll say a collection of great poetry and written work, and some of my stuff too. So that's the title of the book. If you'd like, but I don't know whether you can indulge me, I would be happy to recite "You Don't Know My Heart" for you if you'd like to hear it. It's pretty short. Would I have the leeway to do that, Suzanne?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay.
I first have to tell you, I can't just write poetry. It comes from somewhere outside of myself, and it comes from being inspired by something wonderful or tragic or love or passion about something. And when I was in China in 2007, I traveled there on business, and I stayed in a hotel as a guest of the Chinese government. And the hotel had a piano bar in the lobby. And this young woman would play this haunting piece on the piano. And when I say haunting, it was so beautiful. And I'd never heard it before. And the feeling that I got from it was like a feeling of longing, like yearning would be another good word, like somebody had lost someone or was missing someone. I mean, that's like in the music, you can feel it. And I decided that I would record it on my phone, which I did on my last night there. And I asked her what the name of the piece was, and she says in English, it's "You Don't Know My Heart." And I came back to the United States, and for 7 years, I tried to figure out a way to write words to the music. I never could. I can never make the pentameter and the metaphor line up with the music. So one day I played it on my computer and I wrote this. And it's called You Don't Know My Heart, just like the song, just like the music. The sea will ebb and flow, my love. The tide will rise and fall. The moon gives her shape to the darkness each night, heeding her lover's call. The ocean embraces most all the earth and has from the very start. But if you think this is vast, my love, then you don't know my heart. Which is better, the sun or the rain, a flower or a bird? To compare a rainbow with a waterfall is an argument absurd. What is my favorite part of you? Your face, your eyes, your lips? What about the music of your laugh or the touch of your fingertips? Is beauty ours to see and hold, or a thought to think or feel? Is love imagination or something very real? Romance is often tested and love placed miles apart. But if you think distance is a test, my love, then you don't know my heart. Age and illness are imposters, my love. Illusions meant to trick. It's our thoughts of what things mean or don't that truly make us sick. So know inside how deeply I feel. I may leave, but I'll never depart. If you find this too much to believe, then you don't know my heart.
Absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
I love it. Yeah, I'd be interested in hearing a lot more of your poetry for sure.
Thank you.
Thank you, Russ. That was beautiful. Leanna. Yes, ma'am.
Hey, Russ, that was absolutely incredible. And it honestly feels like I can hear God speaking through you. And I was wondering, have you ever studied A Course in Miracles? Because some of what was coming through your poem really reminded me of that work.
A friend of mine gave me a user-friendly version of A Course in Miracles many years ago. And I haven't studied it, but I did read it. And it aligns greatly with how I feel. And I think it's a wonderful, wonderful piece. So I guess the short answer is yes. I'm familiar with it and it's beautiful. And thank you for what you said. You know, I when I write, and I don't write all the time. I'm not like a prolific poet that writes a bunch of stuff. I've written some things I'm proud of. And like I said, I feel like something's using me. And I believe some people, I know a friend of mine said one time that that was the Holy Spirit using me to write, was actually moving through me. And that makes a lot of sense. I know it's something bigger and greater than I am, because it's got my fingerprints on it, but I really, it's almost like I can't take credit for it. A lot of the things that I write, they're right like I wrote them. I don't change them or work on them or try to change the verse around to get it better. I just write it out. There's a little book that I'm going to publish with the other books. And when I say a little book, it's like, think in terms of a child's book, like the Pokey Puppy was my favorite when I was little. One of those thin books, you know, that has pictures and drawings in it and a couple lines per page. I wrote a book like that for adults. I wrote a story for a book like that for adults in 1980 called The Myth. And it's a story of unrequited love and spontaneous human combustion. It just came to me. It's like a Greek myth. It's set up that way with Pegasi in it and everything. But I don't know where the hell it came from. Just one day I sat down and wrote this myth, the myth. And I've changed it very little since I first wrote it in 1980. But I've always thought it would be a book for lovers. Like everybody has a story of unrequited love, their first love, where they really thought that was it. And, or, you know, even in adulthood, we have romances. And so I thought this would translate well in other languages, even, Japanese or French, because it's a timeless type of story. And it's just simply called The Myth. And I hope to sell that, and all the top profits from these books will go to the foundation. But I'm not writing books to have a book to sell. Like, I notice these days, people say, "Do you have a book?" And people are out writing books, and I don't know if anybody actually ever reads them. I mean, there's something to pass out at the end of your speech, and a thing, and oh yeah, I've got a book back there. And I'm not saying that they're all like that, but there's so many books that people write, and I want to write this because I want to have something in writing where my daughter or my grandchildren, I don't have any grandchildren, my daughter's not married yet. She's 33 though, and the love of my life. But someday I would love somebody to say, I knew this guy. He was a friend of mine. I spent time with him. And to have things be shared in the world, who the hell was Russ DeVan? It doesn't really matter. It's my way of, and I guess that's kind of egocentric too. I just want to be remembered for touching someone or making a difference, or leaving something behind I've just been so blessed and so given to. I've been the recipient of so much in my life. And I just want to try to give some of it back. That's it, really. That's the bottom line for me. Anyway, thank you for what you said. It's very kind.
Oh my gosh. Thank you, Leanna, and thank you, Russ. Does anybody have any more questions? I know we're getting at the top of the hour, we're a little bit over, and I want to be respectful of Russ's time and everyone's time here. Does anybody have any last questions? I just want to make sure I give everyone an opportunity.
Just thank you, Russ. This is great.
Mm-hmm.
Glad I could be.
Yes, absolutely. Oh my gosh, Russ, your energy, your vibe, your frequency, we are all 100% feeling that. And we want to thank you for the gift that you have given us, because our lives will never be the same now that we've had this interaction with you. And
We've been rust.
Do what?
We've been rust.
We've been rust. We've been rust, right? The rust of possibilities. Yes, it's you have been such a treat, on this day, Friday. And I want to thank everyone for being here. I know everyone's balancing a lot in their lives. For everyone to come here and practice listening to Russ, I know it's benefited all of y'all, me, and I just want to thank you so much, Russ. And we will. Do you want to share like where they can find you or anything like that? And I'll be sure to share where you can find him. I'll send out a text to y'all. Not spammy, just to let you know where you can find him. So do you want to share any last minute things, Russ? So
I mean, you can find me on Facebook. I think I'm the only Russ DeVan there out of several billion people. I don't. RUSSDE capital VAN on Facebook. My website is successbydesign.global.com, in which Suzanne and Paul they've really been angels in my life in terms of helping me recreate Success by Design's presence. And so the website, my email, if you'd like it, is Russ DeVan. This is real tough. Russ DeVan, RUSSDEVAN @gmail.com. So I'm pretty easy to find, so I think. But is that what you mean?
Yes, that was perfect. That was perfect. Yes. Well, thank you so much, Russ.
Yeah, thank you.
You've been an absolute gift and a blessing. Thank you everyone for the co-creation here. Feel free to reach out if y'all missed any of that information, or if you want to touch bases with him and can't figure it out, feel free to reach out to us or to me.
The recording will be on, we'll
probably put it on
the recording part will be on before the YouTube part, but then the rest of this we'll put it on Alchemy. So
probably on Alchemy.
okay.
Yeah.
That way you can listen to Russ's poem.